Hello and welcome to Stories of Science. Here, we look back on humanity's long journey to understand the world. The questions, the failures, and the breakthroughs that slowly changed how we see the universe and ourselves. We tell science as stories.
From hydrogen bomb to global peace, the shocking transformation of Sakharov. You know, there's a guy who did something almost impossible. He created nuclear weapons, and then spent the rest of his life fighting against them. Yeah, that's right. He's known as the father of the hydrogen bomb, yet he never imagined the enormous responsibility that would come with it. Today, let's dive into the story of the man who made the Cold War even colder, Andrei Sakharov. Now, this isn't your typical scientist in a lab story. Forget the white coats and endless formulas. Sakharov's journey is far more dramatic. Imagine someone who can design a weapon capable of destroying the world, and then decide to become a global symbol of peace. Sounds like a superhero origin story, doesn't it? Picture it, the very man who built hydrogen bombs, later standing up to advocate for international peace. It's like watching a superhero go from destroy the world mode to save the world mode overnight, a plot twist Batman himself would envy. Back in the day, the world was basically two superpowers threatening each other with nuclear weapons, and Sakharov steps in like, hold on, let's talk peace. He showed the world that science isn't just a tool for destruction, it can also be a lifeline. Sakharov didn't grow up in a lab surrounded by bombs. His parents were traditional intellectuals, his father, Ivan Sakharov, an engineer, his mother, Tatyana Sakharova, a writer. Books were everywhere. You'd think his parents hoped he'd follow in their footsteps and become a rational, methodical engineer, not a super scientist dabbling in nuclear annihilation. But young Andrei wasn't all that interested in rationality. He was fascinated by the beauty of physics, diving into the mysteries of particles and atoms. He studied at the Moscow Institute of Physics and Technology, and let me tell you, that wasn't a school you just stroll into. He had a mind for math and science, but hydrogen bombs? That was a path he hadn't even imagined. He could have dreamt of being the next theoretical physics superstar, like Stephen Hawking, and instead, he focused on particle physics, chasing the thrill of understanding the universe at its tiniest scales. Then life threw him a curveball. Imagine walking into university with dreams of being a great physicist, and suddenly the government taps you on the shoulder. Hey, we need you for a top-secret project, designing nuclear weapons. And just like that, Sakharov is pulled into the Soviet nuclear weapons program. It's like a kid who loves dancing suddenly being shoved into the center of a dance floor. Awkward at first, maybe, but eventually, he starts to shine. Sakharov quickly became a genius in nuclear design, turning from a regular physicist into a key player in creating the hydrogen bomb. Think about it, his parents probably just wanted a sensible engineer. Instead, he became a nuclear prodigy, like sending a kid to learn piano and discovering he's a rock star. His work led directly to the hydrogen bomb, putting him at the center of nuclear weapons development, earning the title father of the hydrogen bomb. But with great power comes, you guessed it, great responsibility. Imagine sitting in a lab in the 1950s, realizing the weapon you helped create could wipe out entire cities. Sakharov must have wondered, if these weapons were ever used, what would happen? His genius brought immense power, but also a gnawing fear. And here's where the story starts to twist. He saw that science shouldn't just be about war and destruction. It should be about creating a better future, guiding humanity toward peace and progress. Now, you might think designing the hydrogen bomb was a spectacle: lightning, sparks, explosions like a Hollywood blockbuster. Wrong. It was actually more complicated, more nuanced, and, frankly, ethically troubling. Going from a passionate young physicist to a core architect of the hydrogen bomb wasn't instant. He stumbled, learned, calculated, theorized, and persisted. Sakharov was obsessed with the tiniest details of nuclear reactions, how to make them more efficient, more powerful. In other words, how to make a planet-scale fireball even more explosive. A thrilling stuff, right? And he didn't do it alone. Behind him were countless scientists, like a real-life superhero team. No capes, just theory, calculations, and endless coffee. Every breakthrough, every experimental step, built a metaphorical mountain, with Sakharov at the peak, shouting, "Let's go, team!" Yet the emotional side was complex. Sure, he loved solving technical problems, but he also feared the consequences of what he'd helped create. Every new design meant more destructive potential, and he couldn't ignore that. This was a tug-of-war between scientific achievement and human conscience. From a small physics student to a key nuclear designer, Sakharov's journey reminds us science can send you to heaven or hell. He designed a weapon capable of annihilating the planet, yet he started as an ordinary student, a guy who just stumbled into a deep scientific pit. No warning, no fanfare, just a life suddenly entwined with global fate. His transformation wasn't cinematic or smooth. From researcher to super designer, he struggled with doubts, fear, and responsibility. The bomb became not just a weapon, but a problem to solve, a challenge he had to wrestle with intellectually and morally. And here's the irony: the very man who built the world's most powerful nuclear weapons later became a leading advocate for nuclear disarmament. Sakharov's life proves that science is a double-edged sword, it can destroy or save. And he became the hero in the battle between technology and morality. From father of the hydrogen bomb, champion of peace, his story reads like a superhero origin story or a cinematic twist. A shadowy scientist suddenly flips from villain to savior, except the superhero isn't patrolling the streets at night, he's navigating the tense corridors of Cold War superpowers. You might be thinking, so he must have done some big superhero-style rescue, right? Well, not quite. Sakharov didn't suddenly sprout a cape one morning and fly into the sky. No lightning bolts, no cinematic globe. Instead, it was the escalating tensions of the Cold War, especially after the Cuban Missile Crisis, that made him really see the terrifying consequences of nuclear weapons. Sure, his job was literally designing bombs that could end the world. But as he thought deeper, a nagging unease began to creep in, because if those bombs ever went off, well, that's it. The world could be done for. Imagine being a nuclear physicist and suddenly saying, this thing is kind of terrifying. Maybe we shouldn't use it. That's a bigger plot twist than any superhero turning villain. This is the guy who once drew the blueprints for ultimate destruction, imagining this is the peak of power. Next, we can topple the world, and then suddenly says, wait a sec, maybe destroying the planet isn't the best idea. Honestly, if it were me, I'd be like, is this guy losing it? But Sakharov wasn't crazy. He just finally saw the human cost of nuclear weapons. He realized the Cold War wasn't just a chess match between two superpowers, it was a dance on the edge of human self-destruction. His conscience whispered, if this ever gets used, who's even left to argue about politics? His reflection began with understanding nuclear weapons inside and out. He saw that they weren't just tools of military power, they were irreversible disaster machines. Point one detonation, and entire cities, lives, and futures vanish in an instant. At that moment, Sakharov transformed from a pure scientist into a warrior with conscience. He started asking the haunting question, am I a hero or a villain? And deep down, he knew he had been a villain. He stopped seeing himself as just a lab-bound physicist. He started caring about humanity's future. He still analyzed nuclear physics with a scientist's mind, but now he judged the consequences with a human heart. His vision expanded from pure technical innovation to global nuclear disarmament and peace advocacy. That's when he truly grasped the responsibility that came with the weapons he helped create. He began speaking out publicly against nuclear arms, urging the world to reduce and even destroy them. And he didn't just talk, he acted. He wrote, lectured, and used his scientific credibility to champion peace. Think about it, the father of the hydrogen bomb became a nuclear disarmament activist. The transformation is staggering. The threat of nuclear annihilation was still real. The Cold War wasn't letting up, but Sakharov didn't succumb to fear. Instead, he doubled down. He knew this was just the beginning of a moral and scientific battle. His voice, like a pebble tossed into a pond of nuclear arsenals, sent ripples across the world. Sakharov became a global ambassador of peace, and let's be real, more credible than any anti-nuke clown. Why? Because if you designed weapons that could destroy the world, people are more likely to listen when you tell them not to. His stance shook the Soviet Union and inspired the entire globe. In his book Peace and Progress, he laid out the dangers of nuclear weapons and proposed worldwide reduction strategies. It became, in essence, the Bible of the nuclear disarmament movement. He didn't stop at writing. He joined international organizations, pushed for non-proliferation treaties, and brought real hope for global peace. Sakharov's impact went far beyond science. He became a political and moral figure, because he wasn't just any scientist, he had designed the world's most destructive weapons, and who doesn't take seriously the words of someone who's been on both sides of the apocalypse. A former villain speaking out against his own past misdeeds carries a weight that no one else can match. From hydrogen bomb creator to anti-nuclear pioneer, his journey was a profound awakening. From science to conscience, his words and actions became a driving force in the global push for disarmament. Under the shadow of nuclear arms, he stood tall as one of the era's most celebrated heroes of peace. Even under house arrest by the Soviet government, Sakharov never stopped. Can you imagine being locked inside your own home, cut off from almost all communication, yet still finding the strength to speak out for freedom, human rights, and peace? That, my friends, is a kind of peace superhero energy, trapped, yet shining. The Soviets thought they'd silenced him. They were wrong. He didn't sit quietly. He wrote letters, delivered speeches, and reached out to the world like a caged superhero. His voice broke through barriers, unstoppable. And he wasn't alone. His wife, Yelena Bonner, was his partner in every sense. Intellectually, morally, and strategically. She wasn't just a spouse, she was a fellow fighter for justice. Even under oppressive conditions, her support kept Sakharov going, helping him continue the fight for human rights and peace. Think about it, what kind of couple can face political oppression together, yet still drive global change? That's exactly what Sakharov and Yelena were, a pair of peace warriors. No capes, no rockets, no action hero stunts. Just courage, brains, and unwavering commitment to change the world. Yelena herself wasn't ordinary. A brilliant doctor and human rights activist, she was the type of person who acts instantly against injustice. Their partnership was destined. Two souls committed to justice, fighting side by side. Without her, Sakharov might have crumbled under isolation. With her, they became a fortress of resilience. Together, they took on injustice, spoke truth to power, and showed the world how to maintain integrity under oppression. Sakharov's greatness was inseparable from Yelena's support. She was the lighthouse guiding him through darkness, helping him amplify his voice globally. If you ask how special this marriage was, the answer is, it wasn't just personal, it was a revolution. Their union wasn't just love, it was a moral and political alliance. They didn't just change each other's lives, they shaped the global movement for nuclear disarmament. In the cold shadow of the Cold War, while others cowered under fear, they lit a beacon of hope. They showed that even in a world full of conflict, belief and love can move mountains. You might be wondering, so, how did he actually pull it off? Simple. He kept talking to the world, never giving up. Even under house arrest, Sakharov wrote letters, endless letters, to international organizations, politicians, and activists. He found unofficial ways to give speeches, to spread his message about opposing nuclear weapons, promoting human rights, and defending democracy. Picture this, a man literally confined by his own government, yet still getting his voice out. It's like he became a modern-day underground warrior, patient, but ready to strike back. And the payoff? In 1975, Sakharov won the Nobel Peace Prize. Think about that for a second. A man under house arrest, receiving the world's highest recognition for peace. Talk about drama that beats any Hollywood plot. He wasn't celebrated with flowers and fanfare in a big hall. No cheering crowds. Instead, the award was a ripple through letters, speeches, and global support, a kind of history hitting back. Imagine the irony, the father of the hydrogen bomb, now a symbol of global peace. It's almost like a supervillain suddenly decides, alright, I'll save the world instead. And yet, Sakharov took it seriously. His Nobel wasn't just a trophy, it was a responsibility. From that moment on, he wasn't just a scientist. He became a symbol of global peace. His name no longer just linked to nuclear arms, it stood for standing up against war and advocating for nuclear disarmament. If he had stayed quiet, if he had played it safe, the award might have been meaningless. But he chose to speak out, to give a voice to those who couldn't, to challenge those who wanted the Cold War to escalate. Can you picture it? A man who once designed hydrogen bombs now speaking for peace on the world stage. That's a plot twist worthy of a blockbuster. And behind all this, Sakharov relied on one thing above all, unshakable conviction. His house arrest, rather than silencing him, made his voice even sharper. Because sometimes, the greatest power comes from longing for freedom, from standing up for justice. Sakharov's story proves that. Even trapped, even threatened, he shone. Today, when we hear terms like nuclear disarmament or non-proliferation, or when international leaders call for peace, we are still living under the shadow of Sakharov's legacy. He wasn't just a scientist, he was a real-life superhero, using thought, action, and courage to push the wheel of history forward. So what exactly is his legacy? It's twofold: scientific brilliance and moral leadership. He contributed to the hydrogen bomb, yes, but more importantly, he became a global symbol of nuclear responsibility. Whenever we discuss the dangers of nuclear weapons, whenever we ask how to avoid global self-destruction, Sakharov's name is etched into history, like an unmovable monument to conscience. His scientific achievements weren't just theoretical, they shaped the world. The technology he helped develop could have destroyed cities, yet it also forced humanity to reckon with the sheer horror of nuclear annihilation. It's like inventing a giant bomb by accident and suddenly realizing you're responsible for the consequences. That fear of power? Almost unimaginable. And when he saw the potential human cost, he didn't look away. He stood up, spoke out, and became the face of nuclear disarmament. He was one of the rare voices at the time who could speak uncompromisingly for peace on the international stage. Picture the scene: the man who built hydrogen bombs is now leading the charge against them. It's cinematic. A villain turns into a hero, but this hero isn't after glory or power. He's fighting for humanity's future. Every time we hear the word peace, remember Sakharov, the one who used the knowledge of the hydrogen bomb to actually protect humanity. It sounds ironic, almost like a joke, but that's precisely why his voice mattered. You can only truly warn about the dangers of something if you've seen the full scope of its power. Sakharov's story is a tale of ultimate reversal, a legend of turning immense destructive knowledge into a force for good. And his impact didn't stop at science. He reshaped politics, too. During the Cold War, when superpowers jockeyed for nuclear supremacy, Sakharov and other disarmament activists pushed the world toward treaties like the Non-Proliferation Treaty. He wasn't just an academic figure, he became a global driver of nuclear safety and international cooperation. Think about it: without him, the way we approach nuclear weapons today might be far less serious. Without his courage and persistence, we might still be living on the edge of nuclear disaster. Sakharov wasn't just a scientific pioneer, he was a moral hero. So what does his story teach us? It's more than science. It's about human responsibility. It's a reminder that pushing the boundaries of knowledge is only half the job. The other half? Owning the consequences of what you create. Technology can be a double-edged sword, fast and powerful, but only responsible hands can keep it from cutting the wrong way. Today, we enjoy the peace Sakharov helped protect, but as science keeps advancing, his story challenges us. If you were in his shoes, what would you do? Push the limits of discovery, or stand up for the survival of humanity? That's the question his life leaves for all of us. Sakharov's journey isn't just one man's heroism. It's the eternal struggle between science and morality, freedom and responsibility, knowledge and conscience, and in that struggle, he carved a legacy that continues to inspire us today.
The people who change the world usually just think one step deeper. If this story made you see things differently, hit like, subscribe, and save it. See you in the next story.